Bitcoin.com show. The guys sit down with guests to chit chat about crypto. It's time for the Shitcoin.com show. Let's all not get tracked.
We are back. It's been a little bit of a break from us, but today we're joined by Rodolfo Novak. You might know him as NVK. He is the co-founder and CEO of Coinkite. Welcome, Rodolfo.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So I guess a great way to start this would just be to get a little intro from you, just to understand what you guys are up to at Coinkite. It'd be great to just run us briefly through the products you guys offer as well.
Yeah, so we've been in the space for forever. A lot of people knew us way back then from our Bitcoin debit cards and payment machines and our backend and wallet for like companies and people. We were sort of like Big Go before Big Go.
And for the people who don't know, you guys are based out of Canada, and I guess you drove a lot of the early adoption of Bitcoin in Canada.
That's right. You could find our terminals in many places, all over the world, really. It's kind of funny how many people use their Bitcoins for the first time using our payment terminals. But that was too early in the Bitcoin adoption to be worth pursuing. So we sort of like, and I didn't really want to spend my life supporting users on a 24-hour service, right? So we pivoted to sort of like what we like to do, really, which is hardware, and that's many years ago when we made OpenDime, the credit stick for Bitcoin, and then we launched a cold card, like a proper hardware wallet, a few years ago. And sort of like that's where we've been putting our energy now.
And I sent you a photo the other day of I have some first edition OpenDimes that I keep around. And for people who don't know, OpenDime is like a very tiny device, looks like a YubiKey. And the way it works is you plug it into your computer, and it shows up as a USB drive, and it has an address, like a Bitcoin address on it. So you can send funds to this Bitcoin address, but the cool thing is you can plug it out of your computer and break off a tiny piece of the OpenDime, of the actual physical device. And when you then plug it back into your computer, it shows up a USB device again, but this time it also has the private key. So it's like
right.
I don't understand how it works, but it's super cool.
So yeah, I won't get into the technical details of it, but essentially, we enable people to generate their own private keys so that you don't have to trust the device. But there is no backup, and nobody knows the private key. So you can actually give that to somebody, unlike a paper wallet, right? Because a paper wallet, you could have a backup, so you could sweep the funds before the person does. With this, nobody has it. The Bitcoin is essentially stuck in it. So whoever has physical possession of it has it. And then when you want to sort of take the Bitcoin out, you have to break it and then plug it in, and then it will sort of give you the private key so you can sweep it somewhere.
Could you explain, if we say there's two big actors in the market today, being Trezor and Ledger, I know you'd like to maybe shit all over it, but can you explain just very briefly how hardware security works, and why a cold card would be more secure than a Trezor, and I guess how the process of making them would be different? Yeah,
so I think those guys did a good job for in the early days, but the product got stale, no security, no physical security really, and so essentially. So Trezor is fully open source, and uses a general purpose micro, right? That the same stuff you would find in a microwave, right? It's not designed for security, so they heavily rely on the 25th like passphrase, right? That's the only way you get
BIP
some
38, right?
BIP 39. So BIP38 is just like the paper wallet encryption stuff. This is BIP39 essentially is the seed, and then it's what we call the 25th word. It may be many words extra, but essentially you input the extra words when you want to sign, so that the device. The idea is that essentially the device doesn't have the full seed. So they rely on that, and they have also a sort of like centralized wallet, right? That you can sort of easily connect to a computer and then do your thing. The problem with that is that you lose privacy. And then on the Ledger side, those guys have a very secure product, but it's closed source, right? And a few years ago when we closed down Coinkite.com, I had to store my funds somewhere, and I took a deep look at both of these main options on the market, and they didn't quite do it for me. So we've decided to sort of make a hardware wallet for ourselves. So we made one that sort of solves this compromise between the two. ColdCard has a general purpose MCU like Trezor does, so it can do all the stuff in open source. But we also have a secure element that we use to store the seed with some physical security. And
that's similar to how
Ledger.
an iPhone stores my like Face ID or something, right?
Exactly, right? So you have a little secure spot, right, that is designed for security, unlike the other chip, right? And so what we do is we store the seed there, but we go a step further. We didn't want to trust secure element fully. So on Mark III, we encrypt the seed with one-time pad on the MCU, and then we store the seed encrypted inside the secure element. So
your pin on decrypts the data in the secure element.
Yeah, it's not just the pin. There's like a one-time secret that we create on the. So there's very, very large. It's a very large key to decrypt. Yeah, and it's also one-time pad. So good luck with that. So what's interesting about that is nothing is really infallible in terms of security. So our approach is to just increase the attack time and cost, right? So for you to break a cold card, you'd have to do extremely advanced attacks that you're going to need hundreds of thousands of dollars machines. And you're going to need to break both chips with on the same sample, right? So the same cold card, you're going to have to break both chips, take the secret from both to then marry them and decrypt the seed. So that really raises the bar there.
And this attack you would have to execute before the owner realizes that you have their device.
That's correct.
And yeah, that's pretty tough.
Yes. So again, right? I mean, if given infinite resources, right? So if you give a cold card to your classic NSA facility there, I'm sure within the week they'll have it, right?
You're buying time.
Yeah, exactly. And here's a couple of things on that. First is that most people are not going to be targeted by people that can spend, a few $100,000 trying to get the money from them. So that's one. And then the second thing is you might break the sample, right? Trying to extract the stuff. So you have to break the case. You're going to have to desolder both chips. Both chips have epoxy on them as well. All these steps have literature on how to remove, but there is failure rate in these attacks.
And you only have one device.
Exactly, right? So you only have one chance. So that's sort of like our plan here for this current iteration of the device. We think it does a good job.
Gotcha.
And I didn't mention this, but you guys make, I mean, we're not going to get into the politics of that, but you guys make devices for only Bitcoin. even though you could easily kind of copy paste it, but the way you explained it to me, because we met at the Satoshi Roundtable, is that the majority of the demand from customers is for Bitcoin. So you might as well just focus on that.
Exactly. So I mean,
especially the
you know,
value.
I understand the reality of sort of like being a more niche product here. You know, I think like, so the Ledger guys are essentially going after the whole crypto between quotes market, right? And that market is always going to exist, right? But the reality is you either have to put all the coins, right? Because there's going to be very tiny little groups of people who need one specific coin just until they dump after their pre-mine ICO. And then that's it. I mean, like, you know, like Litecoin sort of faded away. You know, Monero has some still some traffic, but you know, it's pretty still tiny. You know, Bitcoin is king, and I don't want to spend my days you know, doing testing and debugging shitcoins. So we're only focused on Bitcoin. That's sort of like, we're a niche product. I understand that, but it is the main coin.
And yeah, so I guess this is where it gets really nerdy, because as you know, I've been involved in the exchange business for many, many years. And, you know, security is really tough. When I remember when Gemini launched, they wrote a blog post on the security of Gemini, which included the use of something called an HSM, which to my knowledge is a dedicated computer that tries to be tamper-proof. And it works kind of like a Trezor on steroids. So it has all these policies in its software, and it's a physical machine, and you store, you know, your seed phrase, so to speak, in it for, say, like a hot wallet. And then when you want to send a transaction, you tell the HSM, sign this transaction, sending this many Bitcoins, and the policies on the device would dictate whether or not it would sign it. And if it signs it, you get back the signed transactions, but you will not be able to extract the seed out of the HSM. So in the case of a digital attack, or hopefully also in a physical attack, they would be unable to get your seed. So when we met at Roundtable, you told me that you're planning on making it such that the cold card, which is connected to computer via USB, can act as, I'm trying not to say poor man's HSM here, but
yeah, no, it's fair.
To make people understand,
call it a personal.
If you rent an HSM that's hosted by, say, Amazon, it'll cost you $5,000 setup fee, and I don't know how much every month. And I've had Rodolfo and several other people tell me that a cloud HSM doesn't make any sense, because it must be under your physical control, because that's the whole thing. So can you explain how this works, and like what kind of customers you'd have, a timeline?
Sure. So okay, so we made, I think, the first Bitcoin HSM servers in I think it was like 2012, because we couldn't find any in the market for our payment, the Bitcoin payment terminals and all that stuff, right? The backend that we had and all those things. In those days, we tried selling them to the market, but nobody was willing to pay $20,000 to $50,000 per box. So we sort of ditched that project. But I kind of, I didn't want to enter that HSM market anymore for enterprise, because you know, you're essentially competing with like Tails and all the HSM manufacturers, even though they don't really do a great job with Bitcoin stuff. But that is a different market. Now, HSMs are essentially, I mean, HSMs like server side, right? They're essentially like a very secure computer that has extremely expensive and ways of making sure you can operate secrets, right, in a data center or an office. You essentially, for Bitcoin, you get this machine and you say to this machine, hey, you can only send it to this address, you can only sign this amount per day, right, in terms of limit, and that's what the machine does for you, right? Essentially a robo signer, co-signer for you. So I always liked that as well for personal and small business side. So since we already have Cold Card, and Cold Card is essentially, you know, an HSM, but sort of like consumer grade, let's put it this way. We wanted to sort of see if we could make it so that we could automate a secondary Cold Card for you to sort of run your own personal HSM, right? Your personal co-signing service kind of deal. So we wrote the CK Bunker program that you know, you can download. It's free and, you know, open source and all the good stuff. And what it does is it puts Cold Card into a automated mode, and then you can make that as your, say, cosign multi-sig, so that, you know, remotely or locally, you go into this web page, it's an onion address, and you upload your partially signed transaction from your other Cold Card or other hardware wallet, and this will co-sign for you based on your policies. So essentially think of it kind of like your own Casa or your own BitGo, right? You're running your own, so this way you don't lose privacy, because that was always my concern about all these co-signed services is like losing privacy. It means you have to do the stuff you're personally, but at least you gain the privacy back. This is super useful for businesses. Like small businesses can't afford real HSMs and can't afford to write software for it or integrate it. It's a whole sort of, well, probably don't even have the know-how either. This is very advanced stuff, very expensive stuff.
So
with this, yeah.
So an example I was thinking of is if I run an exchange, I can have sort of a hot wallet that's a multi-sig with 3 signers, and 2 are required to sign. So what I could do is I could set it up so that if me and my co-founder sign, we can send money anywhere. But if we're sending the money to our cold storage from the Cold Card, then only one of us has to sign, and the device will sign the other one. And that would like really is a huge burden.
Yes, that's exactly it. You know, there are some security considerations because this is a $100 device. So, for example, when Cold Card is unlocked, right, you are, say, susceptible to side channel attacks, right? But again, right, like if you have this in a locked room, in a locked box, so whatever you're going to do your setup, you know, you're getting a $50,000 solution for $100, right? With some free software. So it's pretty cool that you can do that. You know, you can also do geographical separation. So you can have a bunker running in a different country. So, you know, it reduces your coercion attack vector. You know, you can set up this in so many different ways. I think should be very helpful to people. So Francis is already, Francis from Bull Bitcoin already has, I don't know if he already integrated or it's like essentially in the process of, they've already made it so it's easy to install with the Cypher node. My hope is that my node and BTC Pay will sort of have this package integrated in there, like when button installs soon. You know, this is sort of like, this is the CK Bunker part. It's not really like, it's just an open source project, right? That uses a Cold Card, but I'm sure other wallets will fork it so that you could use it with different wallets, like different hardware wallets. And you know, we're looking forward to people contributing to it and make it easier, or but that's the idea. It's like this project is already live and sort of existing.
Very
It's
cool.
really cool. I want to try this.
I was going to ask as well, Rodolfo. So I noticed on Twitter you were doing a little bit of on prepping lately.
Oh, it's fun.
Yeah, I was going to ask, kind of thinking a little more meta about it. Do you think this whole coronavirus thing is going to have any impact on Bitcoin? What's your view on that?
I think they're completely unrelated, especially because QR codes work through hazmat suits. It's
would you say Bitcoin user not affected?
Yeah, Bitcoin user not affected. Yeah, no, it's I don't think these things are very related, right? Bitcoin is a very well suited to people being suited and not having to leave their homes. I think it's actually quite amazing, right? Because if you think about it, you don't want to be trading gold in an event where physical concerns are an issue. You don't want to be meeting in person and taking a bite of a gold bar
to make sure it's not tungsten.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not super concerned about this stuff. I just I'm concerned about people panicking more than I am concerned about people getting sick. It's when you have a kid and stuff, it's like you're like, like people really lose their minds. Can I get baby Advil at the pharmacy, right? Because stuff runs out. So like, I do a lot of like backcountry canoe trips up north in Canada, and I hunt and I do all kinds of stuff like that. And that's part of my weekend sort of requirements, right? I need to think, do I need, my big first aid kit or my small first aid kit? Am I going to walk a lot? Do I, how much water do I need for this trip? That kind of stuff. So it's very natural to think through disaster scenarios and just sort that out too, and then just buy on the internet.
That makes sense. I guess your friend from Satoshi Roundtable, Justin's son, he's been contributing to the corona cause, I see, lately.
Never wasted catastrophe, right?
Exactly. There's always a marketing angle in there somewhere.
That's right. Oh boy, that was fun. We broke the internet for a day.
Yeah, you did. I was gonna ask actually, when we were talking about Cold Card being Bitcoin exclusive, when Tron?
Oh, so we had very interesting conversations with Justin, and we actually plan on fully pivoting to Tron only. It should take about 30 days, but I'm really sorry to our Bitcoin customers. It's gonna be Tron only.
That's just the world we live in. How the world works. Yeah.
How's the liquid integration? I'm really looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on it. The Tron liquid integration there's a few ways to go about it, but I think that's something we'll have to discuss when we have Justin on the show.
Oh, we really need to do a Justin episode. I think that would be appropriate for your domain name.
I absolutely think so as well.
We'll have to get Dr. back on as well.
Yes.
We'll host a reunion of sorts. So I guess to round this one off, Rodolfo, in terms of what's coming up for Coinkite, what should people be looking forward to, and what do you have in the pipeline?
So we've launched a bunch of new features for Cold Card. We're making very, very easy for you to migrate from Trezor and Ledger to Cold Card. And some of those are essentially now one-button solutions. And we're sort of exploring more security features and working on possibly having an updated hardware device in a year or two. We are working on a separate device that might be sort of like a hardware SPV wallet. It's just we don't have the right solution yet just sort of like more prototyping right now. And yeah, I mean, that's it. Like we're really just sort of focusing on making CodeCard better at this point.
Very cool. Very cool. So guys, I would recommend you definitely head over to coinkite.com to check out all the products, OpenDime.com to check out the OpenDime, coldcardwallet.com for the cold card. And be sure to follow at NVK on Twitter for more TRON updates coming soon.
That's right.
But
the best place to find any TRON updates, TM.